Alright guys, so let's get a feel for this 328 GT. So initially the impressions are this cabin is really nice, I'll be honest with you. It's a very big update from the E-Series chassis. And, you know, I think the pinnacle of the E-Series chassis interiors were the E92 and E90 and E93, obviously, M3s. They just look the most modern, most updated, and very driver oriented. But sitting in this F30, you know, you really just have a lap of luxury. All this material seems very high quality, and it's very aesthetic too. This leather, this brown leather, I'll get the specific name shortly, but this brown leather is very, very appealing to the eye, and it's quite beautiful. So we're starting off here in Eco Pro. So Eco Pro is a very interesting setting because it's new to these cars, you know. The E-Series never had Eco Pro, and this was something that was new. So to start off, we have a N20 B20 inline 4. It's a twin scroll single turbo 4-cylinder. It makes about 252 horsepower and roughly the same in torque. Now we're gonna put the windows up so you can hear what I'm saying here. What's very interesting about Eco Pro is if you guys take a look at the tachometer right now, we are indeed in neutral. And you can see we're in the charge power mode. That means it's the maximum zone essentially for fuel economy. And then once you get back on the gas, it throws it back into gear. So that's actually something I really enjoy about Eco Pro, is when you're off throttle, it will put it in neutral to maximize your glide capability, which is really wonderful, something I really appreciate. So one thing I did notice about these cars is the oil temperature just takes forever to get up to temp. It absolutely takes a very long time to get warm, and that's because these turbo motors have such efficient cooling that very rarely do they run into cooling issues. This is a very reliable motor, and it's a low cost to own vehicle, which is wonderful, and especially since it's a lease. So if you take a gander at the interior here, there's a plethora of settings. You know, you have your connected drive, which is internet. You have your vehicle info, which you can get everything from tire pressure to a sport display. I'm going to show you how much power and torque you're putting down given a specific throttle input. So that's something I really like. I don't know if you guys are having a hard time seeing here because of the sun. So we're gonna let these nice kids cross here. We have a start-stop program in this car, where when you come to a complete stop, you're welcome, lady. When you come to a complete stop, it will turn off the car to save fuel. I notice you have to be on a level ground for this to happen, but it's something that's actually really quite effective, is this start-stop. And something, honestly, I'd wish I'd have in pretty much all my vehicles. I mean, obviously you have the option to turn it off if you don't like it, but it really does indeed save gas. Like, for example, last night I was in a severe traffic jam where I wasn't moving anywhere for at least 20 minutes, and it would have been really effective to have a system like that. So look, come to a complete stop, and the car turns off. So if it's really hot outside, it'll, you know, maintain whatever AC is already in the system, but obviously the air conditioned compressor is not working. All right, so let's bump up to comfort mode. So comfort mode, you get slightly more throttle response, you get slightly, very, very slightly heavier steering, and you get a slightly more aggressive transmission parameter, meaning it revs a little bit higher, and it will not drop into neutral when you are off throttle. So that's something to take a look at there. We're gonna go left here. So, you know, upon light acceleration, it does, you know, this car has 8 gears, so it revs through them all. So it'll try and get through all those gears as quickly as possible to drop into the highest gear and to be most efficient. But aside from that, comfort is the default setting, and it's comfortable. You know, the chassis, you don't really notice any difference. It's pretty much the same as Eco Pro, just a more responsive version of Eco Pro. You know, watch, you come to the complete stop. Might still have stop start. Let's see. No, it does not have stop start. So that's an Eco Pro exclusive setting. Something I really like. So for me personally, comfort is like it's like not eco and it's not sport. So it's like this in-between setting that I personally don't have a use for. So let's go ahead and go up to sport mode. So sport mode, what you notice immediately is steering feel. It gets much, much heavier, and it's very, very noticeable. It's noticeable to those guys too. Oops, let's see if we can figure out the blinkers. So it'll rev the gearbox a little bit higher. And if you give it some throttle, so you know, you get up to speed no problem. So for example, like for comfort, it won't necessarily drop you to the lowest gear available for an acceleration. It'll give you, you know, maybe 1 or 2 gears down, but not the lowest gear possible, because the whole idea there is to save fuel. So sport mode is great because you really get that crisp BMW throttle response, and you get that crisp BMW steering feel. It's very heavy, you know, not as connected as an E46 M3 obviously, and you get higher revs and you get a little bit sharper transmission shift speed. So this is the ZF 8-speed, or as my British friends would say, the ZF 8-speed gearbox. It's a really, really potent automatic gearbox that's become so popular it's even used in the new F90 M5. It is that good. It's light. It's absolutely lightning quick, this gearbox. So you have basically you could drive around with it in drive, which is the standard transmission setting, or you could bump it over to S. So S is just a more aggressive program of D, of regular drive. So it shifts at a higher RPM and it holds the gears longer, and if you brake hard, it'll come down a gear for you. You know, it'll give it a little light blip. It's not really audible because this car is just quiet in general. So S also eliminates the overdrive gears, so you'll hang out at around 3,000 RPM at 65 miles an hour, but it shifts very, very quick. It's a quick gearbox. Super quick gearbox. So, as you notice, yeah, it's hanging in that higher RPM range a little bit longer in that S setting. So, then we go up to Sport Plus. Or, excuse me, then we go up to, yes, Sport Plus. There we go. So, Sport Plus is great because not only do you get steering and throttle differences, you also feel it a little bit more tight in the dampening, the dampers and the shocks. Let's go through a nice little spirited drive here, just for a few moments at least. Grab a little apex. Same deal here. We'll come down to first for you. Nice braking here. Roll into that corner. Alright, so what do we think of the 328 GT? I think it is an absolutely wonderful car, especially for the lease price. It leases quite well. You know, it's sub $400 a month, And overall, it's just a wonderful car to drive every day. It's fuel efficient. Let's see what we're getting after doing all that. We're still getting 25.9 miles per gallon. It looks great. It has a nice interior. It's beautiful. All I could say is I can only imagine how fun the 335 is to drive, or the 340. Because this is just a great, for the average Joe, and my name is Chris. This is a more than enough potent power plant for your daily drive.